Now, let's go with Lily. Your position is a little bit different, but nevertheless, it's a political one because it is an appointed one. So, can you tell us something about that?
Sure. Well, getting to my position, I see it as an evolution. When you first asked the question, I thought, well, how did I get here? And I realized that I have been involved with the Latino community for 14 years out of the 16 years that I've been in the U.S. on this phase. So I've been here before, left, come back. So I realized that to me, coming back to the U.S. after working overseas in all these different continents was a huge shock. Because right off the bat, I realized that even though we work and live in a developed country, the reality of every day for the Latinos and the new Americans is no different than the third world I had just left. So I realized that I needed to make a mind shift to be able to understand how to deal with that reality and how could I have a greater impact. With that being said, right off the bat, I had a mission in mind, and that is find the need and meet it. So I started working, trying to take care of what I call the essential needs. And no matter in which direction I looked, there was just so much need all around me. And so, of course, I tried to start working with people of like minds, trying to figure out, how do we help these people? And I think that is the same boat where many of you may be right now. So you might be able to draw a parallel with what I'm saying. But the more and the more that I worked, the more I realized that it doesn't matter how hard I work or those with me work, it is not going to produce long-lasting change. So I came to what I call my stage 2, which is we need to get organized. And then the question came, how do we get organized? How do we do more with the resources that we have? I realized two things. It has to be an effort in a team, and it requires some type of capacity building. So that's when I started doing a lot more work with local groups and organizations and grassroots. Carolina's here. We started out the Latino Connection in Dayton, reviving the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in Dayton, which is where I lived. Letting LULAC take off. It started in Dayton, and now it's a statewide organization. So I was part of a lot of those first seeds that started those different groups. But then, even though with all of this and all these different groups and people doing all this work around, I realized it's not good enough. Something else has to give. And then it dawned on me, what we really need is representation. So I went on a stage process where I go from, there is a need, get some people to help you meet the need, get some groups organized, but then I said, it's not good enough. And so when I got to that point where I realized that what we needed is representation, I said, we need to be part of the decision making in the state, in our communities, in our cities. How do we get to that point? And so I realized that it was only going to be through my direct involvement in decision making that I was going to be able to get to that next level of influence that could truly, truly begin to bring some change. So I see that is the evolution that I have gone through, and now I'm in a stage where I call it the transformation. And what does that mean? There are two avenues, and you see them right here. She is an elected official. She is, she runs for office. She does all these important things that she does. I'm a public servant. We are working on the same realm, but we're doing it in different ways. What is more critical in our work, I think, is the civic engagement, the involvement that we're able to perceive and to project. I think we, as part of this transformation, my goal is to continue to be educated, and I demand to be engaged as equals. I do not accept that because we're Latinos, no less, haven't had the experiences, blah, 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 then we sort of have to take a second seat. I simply do not accept that. And I may seem a bit abrasive in certain circles because I demand my seat at the table that all of our people have earned righteously. I also expect of others what they expect of me and more. And I perform with excellence to the best of my ability. And I think that in this third stage, what I'm looking for is sophistication. Doing more by working less. Working your strategies, working your brain, working your networks, so that we forget our mentality of making things right for everybody, but we truly take the place that we have to occupy, because the knowledge, the experiences, the opportunities that we have had, all of that draws into a very, very solid and very valuable experience that we have to acknowledge it first inside. And then once you acknowledge it inside, you can use it with others. And I think that's part of the challenge that we have here. We have to leave this place knowing that representation is not a privilege, it's a right. And whether you exercise your right or not is your choice. And I think the challenge that all of us want to present to each one of you is to exalt your right to exercise this privilege that you have as citizens of this state. Very silly, but I was very good in math, and forever, growing up in a house with 3 boys, you know, like you said, you have to kind of like do the extra mile to survive. And I was just completely infuriated with the teacher saying that the girls were slowing down the class. So my first volunteer was staying after class for half an hour with the girls that were not doing well and teaching them division. And I became the whiz in math from 2nd grade through 6th grade. And then after that, when I started middle school and high school, I started getting involved with student organizations and that type of stuff that empowered everybody. But I was always the big rebel for the women. We even had a political group, we call it PRE, Partido Revolución Estudiantil. Good expression, so it comes from way back then. But I think that it was important for me because I didn't wait for anybody to say, I didn't ask permission. I just said, there's not a boy here that's going to be better than we are. And it was good because by teaching I learned more. So it was my little volunteering gig since I was in the 2nd grade.
I didn't know that she had a militancy in her.